I'm a racer and I know it. I'm a racer and I know it.
Hello and welcome, racer fans, to another episode of This Week in Racer Track and Field. My name is James Lowry, joined by Coach Jenny Severance. Coach, you had the inaugural Margaret Simmons Invitational this weekend. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about the long distance runners you had running?
On the distance side, we had 6 girls in the 3K, and we had 3 boys in the 3K. So it was kind of our biggest event. Everybody did really well. It was the first time for most of the boys to ever run a 3K, so obviously they were PRs. And on the women's side, we had some PRs. Caroline Tanui PR'd, Abby Oliver PR'd for outdoor. Abby Baker ran a PR, Leah Krause ran a PR, Sarah Davis ran a PR. So that was pretty exciting. And Caroline and Abby Oliver moved to number 7 and 8 all time for Murray State in the 3,000 outdoor. So that was cool.
All right, Coach, and then on the middle distance races as well, your team looked very good.
Yeah, they looked really well. Emma Gilmore came home with a win in the 800, which was great. Natalie Patton got second with a PR, which was awesome because it was really windy conditions, and that makes the 800 kind of hard. They went out pretty slow, so we didn't know how their times would be, but they closed really well, so that was nice. In the 1500, Brittany Bone got second, but she fought hard the whole way. I think the biggest thing in that area is everybody raced well. They knew times weren't going to be ridiculously fast because of the wind, but they just raced to their competition well, and that's really important going into championship season to be able to race.
All right, now, Coach, on the shorter distances, the 100, the 200, the 400, your team looked very good. I believe you swept all of those events. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about your short distance runners?
The shorter distance went well for us. Alexis and Charday had the weekend off for Carbondale meet, so it was good to see them back with wins. Like I said, it was really windy, so the times weren't that great, but they looked really good doing it. Lachey Shaw looked really good. Kiera Austin looked really good. Hannah McAllister looked really good. Really across the board, everybody just raced well.
All right, now, Coach, in addition to the straight running on the long distance, there's also the 3,000 meter steeple, which 3 Murray State racers competed in. Why don't you tell us about that one?
The steeple's a really fun event. You do 7.5 laps. Of the 7 laps, you have 4 barriers that you have to hurdle, and you have a water jump. Now, the barriers are a 4x4, so if you hit it, you're going down. It's not like if you hit a hurdle, it's just going to fall over. You're going to fall over if you hit a barrier. So it's always really exciting. The end of it's always interesting because everybody gets tired, and it's hard to get over those barriers when you're tired. But I think our athletes did really well. It was the second time doing it for Jackie and Allie, and it was the first time in 2 years for Jordan. Allie had a 20-second PR, which was great. She ran way smarter than normal. She ran even pace the whole time, which is really, really good. It's really important in the steeple to do that, and she closed really, really well. Jackie's water jumps are getting better and better every time, and Jordan looked great going over the barriers and the water jumps first time in 2 years, and it was a PR for him as well.
All right, Coach, speaking of wind, the people that probably affected the most were the throwers this weekend. Out of the hammer, the discus, the javelin, and the shot, why don't you go ahead and tell us how we did?
We did well. Tony Pratt won the hammer, the disc, and the shot. She's a great athlete, and she had her season bests all 3 in the same day, which is really, really big. It's hard to do that all in the same day, and she did great. She tied her all-time PR in the hammer, which is awesome. In the discus, she did really well, but as we were talking about wind before, the wind kind of dumps the discus if it's going in the wrong direction, and the way she throws, it kind of did that for her. So I can't even imagine what she would have thrown without the wind. For her to throw as far as she did with the wind was really, really great. Sydney Potts threw the jab, and she's definitely our top jab thrower, so she keeps working away at that. Bree McCarthy also had a big PR in the hammer, so that was really big for her. And Mariah Hoke had a PR in the discus, so that was good.
All right, Coach, well, thank you for talking to us about the meet. And you stick around, racer fans. We're going to have a couple members off the women's track and field team with us in just a moment. And we're back, racer fans. Joining me now is Emma Gilmore, one of the long distance runners on the track team. Emma, tell us a little bit about the longer distance races that track runs.
It varies. Like the shortest one that we call long distance is the 800. That's like my specialist event. And then you have the 1500 and it goes up to the 10K. We've got 3K, 5K and upwards, but yeah.
And what's the longest event that you run?
The longest event I run is the 1500. I may be doing maybe 1 3K just to sort of test the waters later on in the season, but at the moment just the 1500.
All right, now out of all of the events you mentioned, which one is your favorite to run?
My favourite is the 800, purely because I've been doing it the longest. It's the event that I've had most success with, and it's my favourite, so yeah.
All right, now this past weekend you ran the 800 during the Margaret Simmons Invitational. What's going through your head, when you're at the starting line getting ready to start?
This weekend it was special because it was at home, obviously, so when I was on the start line I was just hoping I was going to execute a good race. I really wanted to get the win, and yeah, I was just really sort of determined to run well this weekend especially.
Now on the shorter races, it's just basically an all-out sprint. Is there like a strategy to like a longer race like the 800?
Definitely. I think for myself, being an 800 metre runner, when I do a short distance event, it's just as fast as I can run. But when it comes to the 800, it's definitely more tactical. There's definitely more thinking processes I have to go through before the race. But yeah, it's definitely different for me as opposed to running a 400.
Now the 800, unlike a sprint, which is just a straight line, starting line, and everyone starts in the blocks going from the same spot. On the 800, running around the curve, you have that staggered start, and then you break down into the lane one after about 100, 150 meters. What is it about? Is there like a way to break down?
There definitely is. It depends on the meet. Like different meets will start you differently. Sometimes you start in a waterfall, so you'll have one lane each, but then you'll break ground into the middle lane. This weekend we did like alleys where you're like sharing, and then you can break in after 100 meters. It's definitely like on bigger competitions, it's definitely tactical, and you have to be aware of the people around you because the main aim is to get in a good position after 100 meters. So you definitely have to think about how you're going to run the bend and how you're going to break into the inside. You have to be aware of everyone around you.
All right. And there you have it, racer fans. Joined by Emma Gilmore here, talking to us about the long distance races. She had a great 800 meter this weekend at the Margaret Simmons Invitational. Coming up next, we'll have Sharday Bettis talking about short distance. And we're back, racer fans, with our second special guest of the day, Sharday Bettis. Sharday, you're the short distance runner we're going to be talking to today. Why don't you tell us about all the events that you run short distance?
All the events that I participate in would be the 4x100 meter relay. I do the 100 hurdles, the 100, the 200 meter, and I do long jump sometimes. So pretty much every short sprint there is to do, I do it.
And you prefer the shorter sprints?
Oh yes, definitely, because I don't have that much endurance, I don't feel like, so short sprints work best for me.
I know. Out of all of the shorter events, which one's your favorite?
The 100 meter hurdles would by far be my favorite event to run, just because like I started off running the hurdles when in 7th grade, and I've just gotten better at it, and it's fun to actually work towards to get that short sprint and just get it and go, and I love it, But if I had to choose something that was second, I definitely would choose the 4x100 meter relay because, just working together as a team, like a sprint relay, it's awesome. So I like that as well.
Now, on those short relays, are you ever worried, about dropping the baton?
Oh, yes. Like every time we go and we're about to get ready and do the 4x1, I'm just like, okay, good handoffs, good handoffs, good handoffs. Everybody always thinks about that because that's the most important part. You don't get to stick around, you don't get to run. So, yeah.
All right, now this past Sunday, the event you ran was the 100 meter hurdles. You did come in first. What was going through your mind when the gun went off?
Well, the first thing that was going through my mind, which I'm sure was going through everybody's mind as a hurdler, you never want to run into the wind, and that wind was pretty strong, but that was just an obstacle we had to overcome, and it went pretty well. I could have ran better, but I was pleased with the performance I ran, especially going into that strong of a headwind. So.
Is there anything different mechanically when you're going into a headwind, or is it still just the same mechanics going through?
It's still basically the same mechanics, making sure you're low to the hurdle and getting your trail leg around and getting off the hurdles. But when the wind is a factor, it's kind of hard for you to actually push off and get to the next hurdle because all that wind is coming at you, and definitely your eyes start to water. I know mine do. So that's probably, you just do it the same way and do it as best you can. So.
All right, and there you have it, Racer fans. Sharday Bettis with a great performance this weekend in the 100-meter hurdles. Stick around, we have Miranda Rohrer coming right up. And we're back, Racer fans. I'm now joined by Miranda Rohrer, a Murray State long jumper. Miranda, why don't you go ahead and tell us about jumping in general during a track and field event?
It's really all about like repetition. Like you have to get all your steps perfect, because if you go over the board, as you saw, scratch doesn't count. So it's really important to get your steps down in triple, long jump, and high jump, anything. It's really psychological.
Now, when you mentioned scratching off of the board, could you explain that a little bit for us?
Well, there's a board that you jump off of, and it's the board and then like a scratch board in front of it. And if you scratch by this much, red flag goes up, doesn't count. The jump does not count.
Now, we were talking with your coach a little bit earlier, and she was saying that due to the wind coming from behind you during your running before, like leading up to your jump, it was causing a lot more scratches. You had mentioned that as well. What is it about the wind being behind you that causes that effect?
Well, when you're running, and if you practice like without wind, then your steps will be off because it's pushing you. But usually if you can like determine, well, the wind's pushing, I should slow down, then it can really take you, and it could be a benefit thing.
And speaking of a benefit, you had a personal best this weekend.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us about it?
I was super excited. Everybody was excited for me, which felt really good. And as you said, 6 inches is a lot. And I've just been practicing really hard and trying to see some progress. And when it happened, I was ecstatic.
Now, when you stuck your landing, like you're in the air,
Yeah.
you had to know when you were in the air that it was a great jump.
Yeah.
Was there like a sense of foreboding, like I've got to stick the landing here?
Well, when I ran and jumped and landed, I looked back just to see if the red flag or the white flag, and I saw the white flag. I was like, yes, I didn't scratch, and I knew it was a good jump. I was just really excited.
And there you have it, Racer fans. Miranda Rohrer with us now, but stick around. We'll have Toné Pratt coming right up. And we're back, Racer fans. With us now is Toné Pratt, a thrower on the women's track and field team. Toné, why don't you go ahead and explain the throwing events in track and field?
All right. Well, there's actually 4 throwing events, but I'm only in 3. There's the hammer, the discus, and the shot. A hammer is pretty much a shot put. It's a round ball, a metal ball, and it's like 8.8, and it's on a long wire with a handle. And then a discus kind of looks like a frisbee but heavier. And then a shot is just a round ball that's 8.8 pounds.
And you mentioned a 4th event?
Oh yeah, the 4th event is javelin, and that's like a long stick with a sharp metal thing on the end, kind of like what Tarzan uses.
All right, now you mentioned that you throw 3 of the events, discus, shot, and hammer. Which of the 3 is your favorite?
I would have to say hammer, probably because in high school, I mean, you have shot and disc, but like hammer was just so like new to me because like most high schools don't have hammer. So I think I like it the most because it's I've done it for less time, so it's it's exciting and new to me still.
All right. Now, there's a whole bunch of different footwork depending on which of the throws that you're performing. Which is like the hardest footwork for you?
They're all equally the same. It's just when remembering which one goes to which. They're all they're 2 are different kind of. Hammer and shot are different, but discus and shot are very similar. So it's just going back and forth and remembering which one goes to which. Because in hammer you have to stay on your heels, and then in shot and disc you stay on your toes pretty much.
All right, this past weekend in the Margaret Simmons Invitational, you took first on the shot put, the hammer, and the discus. On the shot put, actually, your throw to get you into the finals, you didn't even really use much footwork. You just kind of stood there and kind of shoved it out. Was there a reason for that?
Yes. Well, the first 2 throws that I did, there were scratches, and automatically everyone goes into the finals. So, like, even if I did a really bad throw, I would have got in, and that was because there wasn't a lot of people at this meet. So I pretty much just went back to the basics and did a stand throw because I needed to get a mark to get 3 more throws to guarantee myself in the finals.
All right, now in all 3 events, you did hit a personal best. Did you know when you were releasing on your throws that you had just really hurl it out there?
No, not really. It's kind of hard to know that until like after I hear the number, because sometimes it all seems the same until like there'll be like one little thing that changes that makes it a better throw than a lot. Like if you fix like an inch of like your height of your hands in your throw, that can like give you 2 feet. So it's kind of hard to determine if it's like a good throw or not until you hear it.
What are you looking forward to the rest of the season as far as your throwing competition?
Well, I feel like this meet was a pretty good indicator of like where I'm at now, and now that I know that I can like get really close to my PRs, that I should definitely surpass them for the next meets, and hopefully when OVC time comes I can get new records.
And there you have it, Racer fans. The track and field team did a wonderful job this weekend at the inaugural Margaret Simmons Invitational. They'll be going to Western Kentucky this weekend, and you'll be able to follow all the action on GoRacers.com. Until next time, Racer fans, I'm James Lowry, joined by our special guest, Tanae Pratt. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day.